Day in Cincinnati is a truly special event.
To me, opening day means a fresh start, a new beginning.
Opening day means to me the opportunity to put on a big league uniform again, for the first time.
From my experience, we should probably make it a citywide holiday.
In the air down the right field line, doesn't have a chance. The Reds have won it on a 3-run home run on opening day.
It's just a huge sense of pride to get to wear that big C on my chest.
In Cincinnati, I've experienced one of them so far, so it's a pretty surreal moment.
I used to throw the first pitch in the major league, and that was a special day for me, and I think it is for other players.
The way the city embraces the team and the parade and the celebration, it's a very special thing.
I played in some great places like Fenway Park, and it wasn't as much of a holiday there as it is in Cincinnati. It's definitely, to me, the best opening day in the game.
Whenever you get that first cheer when we get called out, it can give you goosebumps and make you feel proud of wearing the uniform.
Just being there and being able to play in front of them and play for them is really special.
It is a walk-off homer. What a way to start 2005. Look out at home.
My favorite part of opening day would just probably be, the excitement of the crowd. Packed house, everybody there is going crazy. It's so exciting as a player to get to be a part of that.
It means a fresh start, renewed optimism, and the opportunity to hopefully win a World Series this year.
It is an absolutely glorious weather day in downtown Cincinnati, and welcome to the opening week of baseball presented by Burger King. It's unlike any other opening day in all of Major League Baseball. Today, the 138th opening day in Cincinnati, and the Reds welcome the Miami Marlins. And hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and our entire Fox Sports Ohio crew, I'm Tom Brenneman. Thanks so much for joining us, and welcome to 2012 Cincinnati Reds baseball. It was a great winter, a great offseason for the Reds. Leading right up to yesterday, the press conference announcing that Joey Votto would be here for the next 12 years, and it certainly highlights, Chris, huge expectations, and generally with the Reds, it starts with offense.
Well, it does, Tom. In this ballpark, you're going to score a lot of runs, and the Reds have done that over the last few years. They were second in runs scored last year. They've got guys up and down the lineup with plenty of power to hit the ball out of the ballpark. One of their new acquisitions, Ryan Ludwig. How many times did he kill the Reds as a member of the Cardinals? You hope he's able to pick up where he left off in that way. I think a lot of people are looking at Jay Bruce as this is a year that this young left-hander is going to have a breakout season.
Offense has generally pretty much been the MO for the Reds, especially since moving in to Great American Ballpark 10 years ago. Having said that, is this the best, theoretically, on paper anyway, the best pitching they've started a season with?
Well, they certainly have some power arms that they've never had before. Johnny Cueto, who would have been right up there among the league leaders last year in earned run averages had he pitched enough innings, is coming back. You've got to have at least the basic expectations for him to do what he did last year, maybe even better. Then they bring in a guy like Matt Latos, who could be a potentially #1 starter in the league, or certainly on this pitching staff, if he's able to throw the ball where he wants to and continue what he has started in his young career. Bronson Arroyo needs a bounce back year. Homer Bailey, you wonder if this is the year where he finally gets it and has an injury-free season and goes through the whole season. And the one guy you never hear about is Mike Leake. I say put him out there every 5th day, and this guy's just going to be fine.
Of course, Johnny Cueto, we mentioned earlier, had he qualified with enough innings, he would have been second only to the National League Cy Young Award winner Clayton Kershaw among National League leaders in earned run average, and boy, that's saying something.
It really is. You know, he's got a great feel for pitching, Johnny Cueto does. He takes nothing for granted. He works as hard as anybody, and what I like about him best as a pitcher, he keeps the ball down, throws that two-seam fastball, gets lots of good ground balls, and of course with the defense that he has behind him, you might as well use it.
Well, if you think the Reds have made some changes since last year, we're going to talk about a team that has basically overhauled every area of their franchise, including their name. We'll talk more about the Miami Marlins when we return. Heating, cooling, and drain cleaning. Let's go to WKRC Chief Meteorologist, our old buddy Tim Hedrick.
Hello, Tommy. No problems tonight. Mostly clear skies, upper 50s to start. We'll drop down into the mid-50s. It is a pleasure to be back on Fox Sports Ohio. Enjoy the game.
All righty, Tim. We're looking forward to having you and join us all season long here on Fox Sports Ohio. They were the Florida Marlins, now they're the Miami Marlins. And their new manager, after 8 seasons as skipper of the Chicago White Sox, the always colorful Ozzie Guillen. Marlins opened their season last night. The first pitch in Cincinnati, the opening day in all of baseball, is strike one to Jose Reyes from Johnny Cueto. And we are underway in this 2012 season. Marlins only had 4 hits in the loss to the St. Louis Cardinals 4-1 in their new ballpark last night in Miami. And Reyes had 2 of the 4 hits, coming off his best batting average season as a major leaguer. Tops in the National League. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Reyes. Of course, he's one of the brand new toys that Guillen has to work with during this season. They outspent the New York Yankees, did the Marlins, during the offseason, spending nearly $150 million. Reyes lifts it in the air, short left field. Cozart is there. And Reyes retired, one away. Let's take a look at Ozzie Guillen's starting lineup. A lot of speed. Starting with Reyes and Emilio Bonifacio coming up in center field. Hanley Ramirez has made the move from short to third base with the arrival of Reyes. Giancarlo Stanton, the artist formerly known as Mike, is in right. Followed by Gavi Sanchez, Chris Coghlan in left field. A latter third of Omar Infante, John Buck. And another newcomer in left-hander Mark Burley. Ball one to the speedy Emilio Bonifacio.
Johnny Cueto last year led the league, or led the team anyway, in complete games. He's a solid pitcher, Cueto is. And you love to see that.
A rare boot by Roland. That was slapped right at him, and Scotty unable to make the play. So now Bonifacio aboard with one out here in the opening inning.
When you face the Florida Marlins, you're facing essentially two leadoff hitters. One in Jose Reyes, the other in Emilio Bonifacio. And the Reds defense, you see the outfield. Rollins, Cozart, and Brandon Phillips, Joey Votto in the infield. Ludwig, Drew Stubbs, and Jay Bruce. And Johnny Cueto and Ryan Hannigan. That defense presented by Ford, your Ford dealers.
So here's Hanley Ramirez coming off his worst season in the big leagues. First pitch swinging. A jam shot fly ball at Ludwig. And there are two out in the inning. If the Marlins have any hopes of contending, Chris, they need Hanley Ramirez to go back to being Hanley Ramirez.
Well, they do, and they think that he will be able to do that with some of the other players that are around him in the lineup. Mainly the two guys at the top, Jose Reyes and Bonifacio, and then the guy behind him right here, Giancarlo Stanton. We previously knew him as Mike Stanton. Big, strong guy. I mean, when he connects, he hits it about 9 miles.
The interesting thing about Stanton is he's gone back to his given name, given by his mom and dad and Giancarlo. Ever since he came to the big leagues, he's been known as Mike, although on his glove, on his bats, it's always been Giancarlo. And when he signs autographs, he still signs Mike. Stand a big year last year, 34 home runs, 87 runs batted in. That one's in the air down the right field line. It doesn't look very windy when you take a look at the flags in deep left center field. Although, Chris, we were looking when the Reds were lined up from home plate to the first baseline. It appeared on the field to be extremely windy.
Yeah, it was really kind of a swirly wind going on here, and I'm not sure why the flags in center field aren't blowing, because on the field itself and earlier on it was really gusty. Already it's gone better for the Reds than it did last year. The starter Edinson Volquez gave up back-to-back home runs to the first two hitters he faced with the Milwaukee Brewers. Cueto loved to get out of this inning with no runs.
That's on the inside corner, a called strike. Speaking of Edinson Volquez, he is the surprise opening day starter for the San Diego Padres. They will play later tonight at Petco Park against the Dodgers. Bonifacio at first, two are out, and it's 1-2 on Stanton. Cueto trying to put it to rest here in the top of the first inning.
A lot of the Marlins offense is going to rest on the shoulders of Giancarlo Stanton, but he missed a lot of spring training, had a leg injury that kept him out, didn't play until the very end. You wonder if his timing is there.
Cozart will feed Phillips, and that is out. An error by Roland, but that's it. Phillips, Cozart, Votto coming up. Reds back for the first time when we return. 2012 Ford F-150 Motor Trend Truck of the Year by Cincy USA. Let us be your guide to Cincinnati, USA. Visit CincinnatiUSA.com. And by Skyline Chili. Game time is Skyline time. Stop by your favorite Skyline Chili tonight. Sellout crowd, beautiful Thursday afternoon in downtown Cincinnati for the 138th opening day of the oldest professional baseball franchise. And Brandon Phillips takes from Mark Burley his first pitch as a Marlin is ball one. Brandon coming off his best season in the big leagues, all around his best season. That went out of play, and it's a ball and a strike. And of course, this year, Brandon will begin the year as the Reds' leadoff hitter. He thrived in that role, hitting .350 in a little less than 40 games last year. Foul ball. Well, one thing you'll notice right from the get-go, there is no faster worker on the mound in the major leagues today than Mark Burley.
Yeah, he reminds you a little bit of Tom Browning. I mean, he gets it and goes. He's a cinch for the Marlins to put up 200 innings like he's done, I think, the previous 8 or 9 seasons with the Chicago White Sox. He throws strikes. He comes right after the hitters. There's no waiting in the batter's box for this guy.
Burley has done nearly everything you can do as a starting pitcher. He's thrown a no-hitter. He's thrown a perfect game. He's 161 versus 119 is his career. Durable, a winner, and he's won a World Series.
And he's also won a couple of Gold Gloves, too. So if you hit it back up the middle, he's right there to snag it.
Three and two on Brandon Phillips. And that is a foul ball. Of course, much has been made about the contract that was announced yesterday officially. Joey Votto tacking on 10 years behind a 2-year deal, which will make him a Red through 2023. And many of the questions during that press conference were asked about Brandon Phillips as he draws a walk to begin the Cincinnati first inning. Take a look at the Reds lineup today under manager Dusty Baker. Zach Cozart, the rookie at short, coming up. Votto plays first base, bats third. Scott Rowland, Jay Bruce, Ryan Ludwig makes his major league debut. He bats sixth with the latter third of Drew Stubbs, Ryan Hannigan, and Johnny Cueto. Cozart, the first Reds rookie shortstop to start an opening day. Some of you may have guessed Barry Larkin. No. Others may have guessed Davey Concepcion. No. So who might it be? Frank Duffy in 1971. Of course, the Reds only saw Cozart for all of 11 games last year after he was brought up from Louisville. And then on a play at second base, he injured his left elbow, his non-throwing elbow, and was lost for the season. Ramirez to second, and that's all they're going to get. Looked like Ramirez may have momentarily lost that ball on the high bounce in the sun, and may have affected thereafter his throw to second base.
Well, I'm not so sure they would have gotten 2 anyway. Very slowly hit. Cozart has deceptive speed down the first baseline, and you can see the slide by Brandon Phillips. He'll make sure that Omar Infante will not complete the double play. So you trade base runners out there. About average speed between both of them, Brandon Phillips and Zach Cozart.
So now Joey Votto, coming off a season where he hit 29 home runs, knocked in 103 runs. And of course, Votto, the talk of the entire baseball world after being awarded that contract, which will keep him for sure in a Reds uniform through 2023. It could even be one more year after that. Ball one. Chris, I think you were probably as stunned as anybody, or as everybody, weren't you, that they locked him up to that kind of a deal?
Well, I think the timing of it really took everybody by surprise, and you really have to credit Walt Jocketty and his baseball crew for keeping that so quiet. You know, what you really don't want to do is and I think the Reds they recognize this, that they didn't want the next 2 years to be filled with speculation as to whether you're going to sign Joey Votto, trade Joey Votto, let him to become a free agent. And I think the Castellini family, the ownership group, Walt Jocketty, said, you know what, we're going to take that right out of the equation and make a deal with them. And I think it caught everyone by surprise. Buehrle will throw over a lot. In fact, he's picked off 84 players in his career. He's got one of the better moves by a left-hander around. Everybody on the Reds knows that. The scouting reporters come in. You're not going to see them be real aggressive up there, especially with Joey Votto at the plate.
You know, apparently a couple of years ago, Rick Sweet, the longtime manager at Louisville, saw something in Cozart that I don't know if everybody else did. His first 3 pro seasons, Cozart stole a total of 16 bases. When Rick Sweet got him full-time in 2010, he stole 30. And Votto, that's just great hitting. Inside out, was jammed on the pitch and drops it for a base hit into left field.
Well, when you're going good, you sign a contract that'll keep you in the same uniform for 12 years, and you get this kind of break when you get a ball in on your hands. Now, Joey Votto, he's about as strong as they come. Big, strong hands, very strong wrist. Tough to get the ball in on him, and you're right, Tom. It's good hitting because he always tries to stay inside the ball. Even though that was a little flailed, he'll take it.
Well, many believe the health of this man right here will go a long way determining how the Reds will fare in 2012. When he was in the lineup day in and day out in 2010, you know what happened. Central Division champs. Last year he played in just 65 games and was forced to undergo his 4th surgery on his left shoulder. And Chris, he looked very good in Arizona.
He did, and he came on stronger and stronger as the spring went on. Early on, it looked like he was just kind of out of sync a little bit, but began to drive the ball. It is so important for Rolen to be good, not only in the field but at the plate, because you have to have somebody to be an enforcer behind Joey Votto, or else pitchers will simply pitch around Votto.
And Rolen is hit with an 0-2 pitch, and that'll load him up for Jay Bruce.
Well, that was a pitch right there that Mark Buehrle was going to throw to set up the next pitch. A cut fastball. He wanted to get Rolen off the plate and then probably go and work him on the outer part of the plate on the next pitch. You see the spin on that ball going right inside. That ball will take him inside, and not much Rolen's going to be able to do except kind of tuck it on in and hit on down to first base.
Well, for Jay Bruce, you couldn't ask for it any better than this. Bases loaded, 1 out. Your first at bat of the 2012 season, and it's ball 1. Jay has 1 grand slam in his career, and it occurred the first month he came to the big leagues in 2008. 1-1.
Well, the key in this at-bat for Jay Bruce is to realize and try to get himself to understand that the pressure's on the pitcher right here, not on the batter. Make Buehrle bring you a pitch you can handle.
Drops in there, a called strike, and Jay behind at 1-2. Big pitch coming up right here in this at bat. This is the pitch that Buehrle wants to try and get Bruce and put him away rather than run it to 3-2. So now the 2-2 offering. Bruce does not chase it, and that's something we saw from Jay all spring. He didn't chase a lot of bad balls.
Well, you're going to get a strike right here from Buehrle. Stay inside the ball. Don't try to do too much with it. Try to see the ball as big as you can see it right here and just put a good swing on it. Let it happen. What happens?
Pulled foul.
Now Burley came in there with a breaking ball and had Jay Bruce just a hair out front.
The battle continues. 3-2 once again. Burley against Bruce. Reds trying to jump on the Marlins left-hander here in the bottom of the first inning.
Another off-speed pitch for Burley there. A wily left-handed veteran like Mark Burley. You get up there in a situation with the bases loaded, you can't guarantee yourself a fastball. He can throw a lot of different pitches over the strike zone.
3 balls, 2 strikes. And it's in the air, left center field, pretty well hit. Bonifacio will go to the track, haul it in. Cozart will score. Votto digging hard. He'll stop at third. On to second goes Rolen. And Bruce gets Cincinnati on the board in the opening inning, a 1-0 lead.
Great base running at the very back end of that play by Scott Rolen. He goes from first to second on a sacrifice fly that goes to the warning track in center field. The Marlins kind of went to sleep on him right there. Bonifacio doesn't have a great arm. The cutoff man, Jose Reyes, didn't go very far out into the outfield to get it. Rolen saw it happening, an opening. He takes it. Now a base hit, scores 2.
And the guy trying to do just that, making his Cincinnati debut, is Ryan Ludwig. He's fallen behind a strike. Ludwig, of course, waited so many years in the minor leagues before getting a chance to play in the big leagues. Found a home in St. Louis, had some outstanding years there. Last year split the season between San Diego and the Pirates.
Well, he struggled early on in spring, Ryan Ludwig did, and it may have been a case of nerves, just trying to impress his teammates a little more than he needed to. But towards the end, saw the ball better, hit the ball hard, hit a couple of home runs in the last week. Loves the inside-out stroke in that right center field gap.
Well, Dusty Baker was asked why Ludwig rather than Chris Heisey today. He felt that Burley was not a good matchup for the youngster Heisey. 2-2.
And really what Dusty's probably referring to right there is that Mark Burley's going to throw you a lot more off-speed pitches than fastballs. Chris Heisey is very good on a high inside fastball. He's got a very quick bat. By contrast, Ludwig is one of those rare right-handers that prefers the ball down and away. And he can cover the outside part of the plate.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 on, 2 out. Straight away center field. Bonifacio came in, now gets back, and that'll end the inning, but a scoring inning in the first inning of 2012. Reds 1, Marlins nothing. here in Cincinnati's Great American Ballpark. Our game storylines are brought to you by Elk & Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO.
Well, you touched on it early, Tom. The injury bug hurt the Reds last year, namely Scott Rowland. You've got to keep your key guys. The Reds simply don't have enough depth to deal with some injuries. Lefties have to hit. That means Jay Bruce and Joey Votto. It's an unbalanced lineup, very favored towards the right-handers. A lot of them in this lineup. The lefties have to get it done this year, and you win the close games. The Reds played more games decided by 2 or fewer runs than anybody else last year. Did not have a good record in those games. You've got to slam the door when you've got those close game leads.
Well, Cueto allowed 1 base runner on an error by Scott Rowland in the first inning. He'll face Gavi Sanchez, the first baseman, to begin the second. Rowland backs up. Long throw. Did he get him? He did! What a play by Rowland!
And what a play by Votto at the other end. Man, oh man. Scott Rowland makes an error on the easiest ground ball you could ever think of. Batted to him by Bonifacio, second hitter. Then he comes back and makes a play like this. A long, great stretch at the other end by Joey Votto. Man, oh man, the guys in the corners are getting it done.
Well, you can debate the Reds offensively. You can debate their starting rotation, the injuries that have occurred in spring training to their bullpen. But one thing where there is very little debate is the way this team plays defense. And you can say, well, yeah, they've already committed an error in the first inning. Look, that's going to happen every now and again. But defensively, it's hard to believe, Chris, watching them day in and day out, that there's a better defensive team in either league than the Reds.
And that really ought to give a lot of confidence to the pitchers that are in the dugout watching this ball game, thinking, you know what, if I've got guys behind me making plays like Scott Rowland, I'm going to attack the strike zone, get it down around the knees. In this ballpark, you have to keep it down and just let the defense do their work. They'll do it as well as anybody in this league.
Of course, they have the Gold Glove winner at first. At second, Rowland, multiple Gold Glove winner down at third. I think it's probably safe to say that Jay Bruce should have, if not one, already a couple of Gold Gloves in right. And there perhaps could be one in the future of Stubbs in center.
I've always kind of been amused by the fact where a guy gets a Gold Glove and the guy who came in second isn't nearly as good. You know, a lot of times those votes are taken and offense is figured in. And I think that, you know, even if you don't have Gold Gloves in the outfield, you've got 2 guys out there that are Gold Glove caliber. And Ryan Ludwig, I'll tell you what, his reputation as a fielder is very good as well.
Cueto will handle the comebacker to the mound. 2 out. Well, don't forget the Marlins in town for 3, but get your tickets now to see the Reds and the Cardinals at Great American Ballpark. Beginning on Monday night, one of the first 7,000 fans, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, you receive a Reds 2012 magnetic schedule and car magnet featuring All-Star Brandon Phillips, presented by PNC Bank. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or go to Reds.com. A 1-2-3 second, and the Reds lead it 1-0. 1-0 on this opening day at Great American Ballpark. Let's take a look at the Marlins on defense, presented by Ford. Conklin to start in left field. Logan Morrison started there last night. That's a good look at infield. Ramirez, Reyes, Infante, and Sanchez, and John Buck, one half of the battery alongside Mark Burley. Stubbs, butt hit. How about that? After all the talk the entire winter about Drew Stubbs and bunting more and utilizing his speed, and right out of the gate, take that.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's worked on it in spring training. The unusual thing about this is that he actually pushes the ball. He told me over the last couple of years he just does not seem and feels comfortable pushing the ball the right side of the infield. But he's worked on it, and man, oh man, against a left-handed pitcher, a guy falling off towards third base with his speed, get it on the ground, and you're on first base.
Stubbs, 40 stolen bases a year ago, was thrown out just 10 times, and I think most people agree, Chris, and I'm sure you're right at the top of the list. If he cuts down on the strikeouts and gets on base more often, he will race right by 50 stolen bases year in and year out.
Well, a lot of times it's from Drew Stubbs' standpoint, it's his approach at the plate. But you're right, getting him on base is the important part. I think he feels less pressure at this part of the lineup. Now you've got one of the best hit and run men in all of the business of baseball at the plate right now with Ryan Hanigan. So even against a guy like Mark Burley, who is good at shutting down the running game because he does have such a good move, he's got runners going back to first base when he's going to the plate. A lot of options still open for Dusty. Want to put a hit and run on, want to do a run and hit, you just want to go ahead and sacrifice him over. Remember, you've got the pitcher spot coming up, but you love to see Stubbs on his way to third base here.
Trying to remember that note you found. You brought up that statistic that you stumbled over during the offseason about Hanigan.
Well, you know, they keep a track of everything. And one of the things they call is what your contact is on balls that are actually strikes in the strike zone. And Ryan Hanigan's contact rate, foul ball, fair ball, doesn't matter, is off the charts. 98% of the time he swings the bat at a ball in the strike zone, he makes some kind of contact. And that is so far better than almost any other major leaguer. I mean, you're way out there when you're like that with Ryan Hanigan. So that's why you say Ryan Hanigan is a great hit and run man, because you know as a manager, when he puts it on, he's going to make contact somehow.
Hanigan, one of only 10 players, active players in all of Major League Baseball that have been to the plate 500 times or more, who has walked more than he has struck out. So a very good idea of the strike zone, and puts the bat on the ball. To the right side, and they get the lead runner. That's a nice play by Omar Infante, the second baseman, to get a very fast runner at second base. Well, right now on FoxSportsOhio.com, you can join Hal McCoy, the Hall of Famer, for a live in-game chat. Plus, find out more on the quarterback of the future for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Get it all on FoxSportsOhio.com. Presented by 1-800-SAFE-AUTO and SafeAuto.com. Well, this is season number 40, if I'm not mistaken, covering the Reds for the Hall of Famer Hal McCoy. And, of course, another Hall of Famer just a couple of doors down the hall, known simply as Marty, is beginning his 39th season calling Reds baseball.
You're big when you have only one name.
That's it. And there he is.
Pete, Elvis, Marty,
Prince. Cueto rolls it out there nicely, and that'll advance the runner. Two are out in the inning, and back to the top of the order we go in Brandon Phillips. Brandon Phillips walked to lead off the very first inning. You know, an amazing stat. That is the first time since the 4th of July, 4 years ago, that Mark Burley has walked the first batter in a game.
Where did you find that stat?
Joe Luckham, our statistician supreme. I would have no idea of where to even start to find that stat.
Well, you got to believe him, right?
You know, that's a very good question. And one perhaps we should ask a little more frequently during the year.
How do we know?
Great point. He just hands it to me. I'm nothing more than a talking head. They appeal down to first base. Phillips did not go. 1 ball and 1 strike to Brandon Phillips.
Looks like the Reds have a pretty solid game plan about how to face Mark Buehrle. Now, he's pitched against him a couple of times, has done well each time. But being patient a little bit, he's going to try to get you out as a right-hander with that off-speed stuff away, crowd you with a cutter. I think the idea is just to try to stay away from chasing pitches that are marginal strikes or pitches that are outside the strike zone.
One and 2 the count on Phillips. Good eye. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
There's the record of Mark Buehrle against the Reds. Both of those, of course, wearing a White Sox uniform.
Struck him out to retire the side. 1 hit, 1 left. We move to the 3rd at Great American Ballpark, where the Reds lead the Marlins on opening day 1-0. Cincinnati Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio is brought to you by JTM Food Group, creating great dishes together with the food service industry for over 30 years. Buy your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. For a dealer near you, visit buyatoyota.com. And by Burger King, the proud sponsor of the opening week of Major League Baseball. A sun splash Thursday afternoon at Great American Ballpark. Reds a season opener for the 138th time. And a 1-0 lead for the Reds as we begin the 3rd. Johnny Cueto facing the catcher, number 8 batter John Buck. Jam shot, fly ball at Ludwig, 1 out. Marlins did not get a hit in the game last night against Kyle Lohse until they were into the 7th inning. Boy, did Lohse look good last night.
No, he really did. It looked like early on in spring training before the injury to Chris Carpenter that Lohse might have been the odd man out in that rotation. Ends up being their opening day starter, ends up dealing last night. Really threw the ball where he wanted to, and that's the key. He kept the Marlins off balance, changed speeds, but he kept the ball down and away for the most part.
Of course, the Marlins had to feel pretty good about the starter they had last night. Their #1 guy who went on the disabled list last year, Josh Johnson. He gave up just 3 runs in 6 innings. So they have to feel very good about his return. They're still so young in that starting rotation outside of the man who's on the mound and who bats right now, Mark Buehrle. They took a flyer on Carlos Zambrano. We'll get a look at him on Sunday. Cozart with a backhand, and it throws in time for the second out.
Well, ground ball pitchers like Johnny Cueto can get into a groove where they start getting that ball down around the knees, having confidence of changing speeds down there. Now the last 7 outs, or the last 6 outs that Cueto has recorded, all by the ground ball. Except for the pop up to left field to start the inning here. Can't sneak anything by Joe Luckham. There's the graphic we're talking about. Johnny Cueto over the last few years has gotten to be more and more prolific in throwing ground balls. And as you look at pitchers that pitch in this ballpark, it's almost a must that you have to keep the ball down and keep it out of the air. Last year, his best year ever. It is also his best year for throwing more ground balls.
Today is the first opening day assignment for Cueto. Aaron Harang started on opening day 5 consecutive years. But now Cueto becomes the 3rd Red in the last 3 years to draw the opening day nod. Harang 3 years ago, last year Edinson Volquez, and now Johnny. But he earned it the way he pitched last year.
Well, you could see a little different look in Johnny Cueto's eyes throughout the entire spring training. Came into camp ready to go. Came in with kind of a hungry look to him. He knows that there's some unfinished business out there. He also knows that he'll be pushed a little bit, perhaps by Matt Latos, to be the top guy on the pitching staff. That internal competition is just great. When you've got one guy working against another to see, hey, you go out and pitch a one-hitter, I'll see if I can go out and pitch a no-hitter.
That's the one thing you like about this entire rotation. There's some guys hungry for very different reasons. You mentioned Cueto. Now Latos coming over to prove his value and become the kind of starter everybody believes he's capable of becoming. Mike Leake, the handcuffs are off him now. There's a jam shot foul. Bronson Arroyo trying to come back after so many rock solid years, but a dreadful 2011. You brought up Homer Bailey. It's really put up or shut up time. Many believe in his career. And then there's the hunger we saw from Aroldis Chapman. Wow, was he something in Arizona? Tim McClellan does not give Cueto the call. Full count.
Well, a changeup. Johnny Cueto thought he had the outside corner. What does our Fox track say?
Ninth pitch in the at-bat. Cueto against Reyes. And it's in the air, straight away center. Back-to-back 1, 2, 3 innings for Johnny Cueto. Middle of the 3rd. Reds still in front by a run. Red hits a home run off the Toyota sign during our game today. Jared Weber of Hamersville will win the beautiful new Tundra on display at Great American Ballpark. Register for your chance to win in an upcoming game by stopping by your Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Toyota dealers. Hamersville, they beat us in the third grade girls basketball tournament this winter. I tell you, they had a player on their team, I don't know her name, but she lit us up for 17. They had a nice club.
Sounds like it lands on a coach.
You're right. You're right. I had parents yelling at and screaming at me. I finally put a girl to guard her. She didn't score in the second half, but it was too late. Kozai will reach safely. We'll see how they score it. That was going to be a bang-bang play, and it is a base hit for Kozai.
Well, playing about even in with the bag was Hanley Ramirez right there. I'm not sure if he would have had an easier chance than Burley, but remember Burley being left-handed, falls off a little bit towards third base, and he's a very agile guy. Has won 2 Gold Gloves, and had he been able to pick that ball up and fire it to first, they may have been able to get Kozar.
Zach Boyd to begin the inning. Now Votto down a strike. I'll tell you one thing we noticed about Kozar, I brought up earlier. It was just 2 years ago he stole 30 bases at Louisville. And he might take the biggest lead on the team. Votto dropped a single into left field his first time up, which helped lead the Reds to score the only run of the game so far. They go to second, get the out there. I'd like to tell you, Kroger and the Reds are proud to team up to offer you a great value this season. The Kroger Meal Deal. Check concession stands throughout the ballpark, which includes a full-size adult hot dog, a bag of chips, a 16-ounce Coke, and during this homestand, Sargento string cheese. Make sure to get your Kroger Meal Deal today. One of just many great deals they have around Great American Ballpark to make it affordable for you and your family or friends to come on down. Now Rolen hit by a pitch his first time up. Jammed with a pitch in the short left field, and Coghlan underneath it. Back to first goes Votto, and 2 are out. Jay Bruce a season ago, 32 home runs, 97 runs batted in. Talked a lot about it during spring training. He showed up in Arizona 15 pounds lighter than he was a year ago, which tells you a lot about his work ethic during this offseason, Chris.
Well, he did it really, Tom, with a very simple approach, which was cut out the junk food. Didn't go on some kind of dramatic diet. You know, he always keeps himself in pretty good shape as far as working out, lifting weights, doing all the things to make yourself stronger as an athlete, but he decided he wasn't going to eat after 10 o'clock, cut out the soft drinks, cut out a lot of the sugar. Here he comes in camp looking a lot better.
And picked off over at first base is Votto. What'd you say, he had 83 of them?
85 now. It was 84 coming into today.
So we played 3. Reds lead 1-0. Time to take a look at our AT&T trivia question. Who was the last Reds player to make his major league debut by starting on an opening day? That's a good question. Chris, do you have any idea?
No, I do not.
I was trying to guess in between innings with our statistician Joe Luckham. The only clue that he would give me, because my first guess was Pete Rose. He said no. He said later than that. He said Pete Rose was this player's manager.
Kurt Stillwell.
That was my guess too, and he shook his head no. I guessed Eric Davis. He said no. We know it wasn't Barry Larkin, because the last shortstop to start an opening day in Cincinnati as a rookie up until today was Frank Duffy back in 1971. So we'll give you at home a little time to figure out what your guess might be while we're doing the same. Reds lead 1-0, top of the fourth inning. When you look at the way games roll along, this appears to be on paper a very important inning for Cueto. Not to say you can't get hurt by the bottom of the order, but you find a way here in the fourth to retire 2, 3, and 4. And if you stay on schedule, you may not have to worry about these guys again until the 7th.
Well, every bit as important as that, Tom, is the fact that Cueto is throwing strikes. He's getting ahead of the hitters. He's keeping his pitch count down under control. So the fewer pitches you throw early on, the longer you can go into a ball game. That's what you want. A starter going deep.
Going to be a tough play for Cozart. He'll just hang on to it. Bonifacio among the fastest runners in all of baseball, and that's an infield hit.
Where you see a very similar style of hitting of the two top guys in the order with Jose Reyes and Emilio Bonifacio. They're slap hitters. They try to get that ball going the other way. Twice Reyes has tried to do it. He's lifted it into the air, but Bonifacio tried to bunt that ball by Scott Rowland the first time. This time he kind of slaps inside out swing, and harmless ground ball turns into a base hit, and you've got a speedster on the bag.
Told you Bonifacio stole 40 bags a year ago. Getting a chance to play in the big leagues at one position for the first time in his career.
Well, they'll throw over to try to shorten up the lead for Bonifacio. When Mark Burley threw over to first base, it was simply to pick Joey Votto off, because Votto was going nowhere, at least as far as an attempt at stolen base. Solid lead, not a huge one.
One and one on Hanley Ramirez. Ramirez was asked during spring training how many stolen bases he would have combining with Bonifacio and Reyes. Took a little bit of time to figure out the math in his head. He said, I don't know, somewhere around 160. Now, that would be quite an accomplishment, but when you consider that Ramirez has stolen as many as 40, Bonifacio did last year, and Reyes last year stole 39 despite some leg problems. Getting up over 110, 115 might be realistic.
Well, as big as that ballpark is down in Miami, they may need to push the running game. 420 feet in center field. In fact, I asked their hitting coach, former Red Eduardo Perez, I said, hey, do you like this team? Will you guys score a lot of runs? He said, we will score on the road. That ballpark in Miami they built, as beautiful as it is built to pitch in.
One and two on Hanley Ramirez. And a fastball misses away. Well, Ozzie Guillen makes no bones about it. He kept screaming and yelling and hollering and pleading and asking Kenny Williams, his general manager with the White Sox, to get him more speed. He likes the National League style of play, and really the White Sox, the last time and the only time in forever they won a World Series, they had some of that speed. You may remember they had Scott Pasetnik was leading off for him back in that 2005 year. They brought in Juan Pierre to try and generate some. This time he got it.
Well, he was going on the last one. He had a little flinch towards second base, although it was very close at first. And I'm not sure if it was Chris Meyer, the bench coach, who called for that pickoff play again, but Johnny Cueto's got such quick feet. He gets it over there, lickety-split. Good tag made by Votto. That ball is right on the money, and Bonifacio makes one little move towards second, and at that point, you're done.
And it comes right back to take care of Ramirez on strikes.
Now he comes right back with a good old-fashioned fastball right here and just throws it right by him. Perfect location, a little two-seamer that starts center of the plate. By the time it ends up in Ryan Hanigan's glove, it's down and inside. You roll right over the top of it.
So 2 around the inning, and now Stanton on the ground to Rolen, and just like that, what a play by Votto. A rare poor throw by Rolen, and Votto saves him. Welcome to opening day in Cincinnati. It's Miller time. Have a little Miller time moment coming up a little bit later on in our telecast. So just settle in. Reds with a 1-0 lead. After 3.5, Jay Bruce, Ryan Lundwick, Drew Stubbs against Mark Burley. Reds scored their run in the first inning. Bruce hits it off the end of the bat. Jay drove in the game's only run with a sac fly. 1 pitch and 1 out. Well, we gave you a little while to think about that AT&T trivia question. The last Reds player to make his major league debut by getting a start on opening day. Who was it? The rookie of the year that year, Chris Sabo. 2 years ago, inducted into the Reds Hall of Fame. And still makes his home right here in Cincinnati. Always see him around and about town. 2 pitches and 2 outs. As Bruce and Ludwig are set down quickly by Burley.
Boy, a pitcher's dream and a pitching coach's dream right here when you get the possibility of a 3-pitch inning. Now, what Drew Stubbs has probably been told to do, and he knows this from being around baseball, is you just take the first pitch. You just don't want to run your pitcher right back out there after this guy just throws 3. So he'll take the first pitch. Burley knows it and fires her right in there for a strike. I had a pitching coach, Tom, one time who would, in the minor leagues, promise us a case of beer if we had a 3-pitch inning. And I had one. I had to pick a guy off first base to qualify. This old right-handed Reds pitcher, Sammy Ellis.
Oh, yeah.
And he hung that carrot out there, and I did it on the first night he asked.
Sammy'd sit down there and drink it with you. If you'd ask him to come along, that is a fair ball. And a good play made by the former shortstop Ramirez to end the inning. So a 5-pitch inning for Burley. We move to inning number 5. Reds lead 1-0.
No case. Now, don't forget that after every Reds game, Fox Sports Ohio breaks down the game with interviews from players and coaches. Reds Live brought to you by Kings Honda in the Kings Auto Mall. Visit KingsHondaUSA.com.
Johnny Cueto is allowed 1 hit. That was an infield hit to begin the 4th inning by Emilio Bonifacio, and then Cueto picked him off. First pitch swinging. There's Gabi Sanchez to open inning number 5. 1 pitch and 1 out for Cueto, who has not walked a batter. He has struck out 1.
Hey, the Marlins are coming out of the on-deck circle swinging the bat, making it very easy on Johnny Cueto, who's missing that sweet spot very nicely. Burley's beginning to get on a roll where he's had a lot of 1, 2, 3 innings or kind of like that, and the Marlins have kind of fallen into that ever since the 2nd inning.
Now Coghlan, the one-time Rookie of the Year. That was 3 seasons ago if you include this 2009 year, and then he tried to play through a lot of injuries, did not tell anybody about it. Wound up being sent back to the minor leagues and had to play his way on to the opening day roster.
Now, one guy who we know very well who played his way on to this opening day roster, former Reds Austin Kearns. Came into camp with the Marlins as a non-roster player. He was fighting it out with a number of other players, including Aaron Rowan. They eventually released Rowan and some of the other guys they sent out, and Austin Kearns made the opening day team. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, the fans here in Cincinnati, of course, have never forgotten Kearns. He had a nice round of applause.
That hit the bat.
I think it did. You're right.
Well, you've got to have pretty good control to do that. Coghlan just trying to get his head out of the way, and that ball looked like it zoned in right to the top of the head, and that he gets his helmet out, and that ball hits the bat.
Still a 1-ball, 2-strike count after that foul ball by Coghlan.
Wonder what's going through his head right now. So you come back with a changeup, you try to throw it down and away, figuring first move he's going to make, whether he likes it or not, is going to be pulling away from that plate.
One and two with one out, nobody on. Marlins batting in the 5th, and the Reds with a 1-0 lead. And back over the mound, that's Brandon Phillips territory. We invite you to join us this Sunday before the game at the Reds Live set for Sunglass Sunday. 100 people will receive a free pair of sunglasses, courtesy of Fox Sports Ohio and Ride Smart. Well, that's a good deal. Of course, this Sunday we celebrate Easter Sunday. Well, the Reds really owe the Marlins a debt of gratitude for being able to move this opening day game off its originally scheduled Good Friday. Of course, Good Friday is the second largest money-making day for the Findlay market in a calendar year. And they were not going to be able to participate in the Findlay Market Parade. And what would an opening day be without the Findlay Market Parade? So the Reds petitioned Major League Baseball to move it to this Thursday. The Marlins, after opening the season last night, did not get in to their hotel and into bed until 4 o'clock this morning. And the only thing they asked was to move the game back from 1 or 2 o'clock, which they normally play, to the 4 o'clock start time. So I think for a lot of folks here, it's very much appreciated.
Well, the parade this afternoon was just terrific.
You were a big part of it.
Went off, and well, we had the Fox limousine, and it was about as big a limousine as I've ever seen. All wrapped up with graphics that showed Joey Votto and Brandon Phillips, Jay Bruce on the side of it. There were more people snapping pictures of that vehicle, I think, than maybe any other vehicle in the parade.
So you're telling me it had a lot to do with the stickers and the graphics on the side, more so than the fact that you and Jim Day were riding in that limousine?
Well, Jim Day has a lot of fans out there.
He told me they were chanting your name the entire time.
Only those that I paid.
Cozart in the hole after walk to Infante and the short way to end the inning. So let's take a look at Chris. Well, look at this. Are you kidding me? Nobody's paying attention to Jay Bruce or Votto. They want to talk to Chris Welsh. Ball returns. Adrian Gonzalez and the Red Sox go to Detroit to take on Prince Fielder and the Tigers. Fox Saturday Baseball returns 3:30, beginning with our all-new pregame show on Fox. Quite frankly, I may have to call some of the boys out in Los Angeles and ask them how in the world it is that a National League city like Cincinnati is getting that game when one of the other games on Saturday, Fox Saturday Baseball, is the Cardinals against the Brewers. There's a lot more interest in that game down here than the Red Sox and the Tigers, wouldn't you think?
Hey, throw some of that weight you got around.
I have
there,
no
big
weight.
boy.
None. I do have weight. I take that back, the ever-expanding waistline. But none in Los Angeles. Reds 1, Marlins nothing. Ryan Hanigan to be followed by Johnny Cueto and then Brandon Phillips in the last of the 5th inning. Play still 2-2 on Hanigan. And Ryan gone on strikes. That's the second of the afternoon for Burley.
Both the strikeouts from Mark Burley came with the same sequence of pitches. The last pitch being a changeup going down and away. He got Brandon Phillips in the second inning. Did the same thing right there to Ryan Hanigan. A veteran like Burley, just a master in changing speeds, changing the hitter's eye location, meaning he'll see one up and in, next one down, low and away. Never throws the same pitch to the same spot twice.
And Johnny Cueto will loop one into shallow right center field, and he has a base hit.
Going the other way with it is Johnny Cueto. You know, the Reds had they had a little game they played in spring training with the pitchers. And you can hit in the cage as long as you want, as long as you hit the ball the other way. But as soon as you pull the ball to your pull side of second base, for Johnny Cueto, that'd be left field, you get out of the cage. Next guy goes in. So they all try to learn how to stay inside the ball and do exactly what Johnny Cueto did right there, which is essentially make contact. Because as a pitcher, when you're up there trying to pull it, chances are you're going to pull off, swing away, strike out, and drag that bat back to the dugout.
That's a great idea. Brandon Phillips has drawn a walk. He has struck out. Burley has only allowed 4 base hits. Down the right field line. You can get a cheapie down there every now and again. But that one is out of play. We brought up his name earlier, but where in Cincinnati is Jim Day? Stay tuned to Fox Sports Ohio and follow Reds Live host as he visits Cincinnati, USA's attractions and events. Jim Day has become quite the man about town. Well, there is so much happening in this downtown Cincinnati area. You look over at the Banks Project, which is finally beginning to bloom right across Joe Nuxall Way, moving west towards Paul Brown Stadium. All the apartments there have been rented. Brand new restaurants, brand new bars, and then everything going on north of Vine Street. I tell you, we have a chance to travel around, and I'm not sure that I have seen another downtown in the last 4 or 5 years that has more going on right now than there is starting to happen in downtown Cincinnati. It is amazing.
Of course, tomorrow's an off day for most of these ball clubs, for us, but not for Jim Day. He'll be out tomorrow filming another commercial for CincinnatiUSA.com, making sure that they keep up to date with what's happening. The guy's a hard-working man.
Two and two to count on Brandon Phillips. And it's taken up and away, ball 3. We'll do it again.
This is not a particularly easy time to see the baseball as a batter. Right-handed or left-handed, it doesn't matter. The shadows, as the sun begins to set, creeping across the infield right here, eventually that's one thing. But it's the glare that you get out here in center field that as a batter, you look into that batter's eye, and it looks like it's, during the rest of the day and at night it's nice, but right now you get a little bit of glare. Tough to pick up the spin of a baseball.
Swung on and dropped foul over the Reds dugout out of play, and we'll do it once more at 3 and 2.
And you can tell as you're watching the hitters here that they're not really seeing the baseball. It's one thing to see the baseball. It's another thing to see the ball and the spin of the ball. Hitters that are the best at it are the ones that recognize the spin earliest. They recognize the speed of the ball, and they adjust. Not an easy condition right now.
Broken bat, base hit, left center field. Cueto going to stop after a big turn and just does get back. Cueto took the breath away, I think, from Mark Berry, the Reds' third base coach, with that aggressive turn initially.
A little bit of a flare right there. The Reds have had their share of them. Keep him under control. There's one of the best in the business right there in Mark Berry. Ozzie Guillen's got to be figuring what's going on here, because last night the Cardinals had base runners in 8 of the 9 innings they played. The Reds now have base runners 4 of the 5 innings they've played. So add it all up, Ozzie Guillen's seen his team or his pitcher pitch out of the set position with a runner on base almost every time they take the field.
Mentioned their starter and loser last night. Josh Johnson allowed the 3 runs in 6 innings. Burley has only given up 1 run so far. We're in the bottom of the 5th. And Zach Cozart, who is 1 for 2, has scored the only run with a 2-1 count. Foul ball. Remember, Davey Johnson used to talk all the time about American League pitchers, guys that have been around for a while, and he was always a big fan of bringing those pitchers, if they still had a lot left in the tank, which Burley clearly does, bringing them from the American League over to the National League. Because let's face it, you're facing with a designated hitter, you're facing better lineups, you have to really pitch. And Burley knows how to do that.
Well, he really does, and he's one of these guys you can't rate him just by watching the radar gun, because he changes speeds on every pitch. He changes his angle of the pitch. Sometimes it's cutting in, sometimes it's moving away from you. Just the kind of pitcher that you look up and you're 0 for 4, and it was a very comfortable 0 for 4.
Very quickly, speaking of Davey Johnson, and that is strike 3 to Cozart. He thought that ball was low. And Tim McClellan rings him up for the second out of the inning.
Well, McClellan has been pretty consistent in getting that low strike zone. And you can see our Fox track shows that to be right on the corner.
Davey Johnson has gone on record as saying he believes the Nationals will have the best pitching in the National League. Today they rally to beat the Cubs 2-1. Steven Strasburg, 7 innings, 1-run baseball. And Votto fouls it away. As good as those numbers were for Strasburg, he was outpitched today by Ryan Dempster. But Kerry Wood walked 3 batters in the 8th inning, allow the Nationals to tie it, and they beat Carlos Marmol in the 9th. One and one to Votto. Burley continues to work Votto in. He got that jam shot base hit into left field his first time up.
Yeah, when Joey Votto's locked in, that's a dangerous place to pitch him. But he's not really locked in right yet. Struggled a little bit in spring training. He took a lot of extra batting practice. Had one day down in spring training in minor league games where he had 15 at-bats. Going in between a AA contest and a AAA contest, every time the Reds would take the field offensively, meaning when every time they were at a bat, he'd go over to that field and he'd take an at bat. Guy works as hard as anybody. Now with 2 strikes, you notice how he chokes up? Guy's a throwback. You don't see too many hitters doing that.
Wasted a pretty good pitch right there. All the seats completely filled today. Any ball in the stands, you got to be awake. Especially those sitting in that section where that sun is right on them. Boy, what a beautiful day. We've had some beauties and we've had some crummy ones. As far as weather goes, today very near the top of the list. Still 1-2 on Votto.
You know, one of the things that makes Votto so difficult is he's showing us right now how a tough out he can be with 2 strikes. He stays back on the ball. He doesn't try to overswing. He doesn't really pull the inside pitch. In fact, he tries to hit just about everything that is thrown up there except the pitch that's high and in up the middle. Tremendous power going the other way.
Boy, Burley will not back down. Every pitch he continues to pound the inside part of the strike zone.
And that's a fastball only at 85 miles an hour.
30 of those pitches from Burley have come in this inning. Fooled him. So Burley wins the battle here to end the 5th inning. We move to the 6th. Cueto and the Reds still lead 1-0. At the end of 5, our Home Depot doing more on defense. It figures to be a staple of this Reds team again in 2012. Look at that play by the Gold Glove winning Joey Votto on a rare poor throw by Rolen to end the 4th inning. Of course, Rolen made a spectacular play back in the 2nd. Cueto so far through 5 has allowed just 1 base hit. He walked his first batter of the afternoon with 2 outs and nobody on in the 5th. So here we go in the 6th inning. And he'll face Mark Burley to start things. He'll be followed by Jose Reyes and Emilio Bonifacio. Burley bounced out to Cozart his first time up. Marlins have not had a runner reach second base so far in the game. Phillips will back up. That's not an easy play. A lot of times you'll see that second hop just eat up a defender, and Brandon able to smile about it.
Well, he's smiling because, you know, he always plays the ball aggressively if he can. The first thing you do as an infielder, if you're not sure, is charge the ball. If you stand there flat-footed, chances are you're going to get caught flat-footed. So he charged in, realized he was going to get it on an in-between hop, so he backed up to give him as big a bounce as possible. And he's not a sensational fielding Gold Glover for nothing.
So now we go back to the top of the order. Reyes has flied to left, flied to center. Base hit.
Well, he finally got the ball down, did Jose Reyes. He's trying to do that every time up. One of the few guys in his lineup that was able to elevate the ball off of Johnny Cueto. 1-run ball game. This guy always a threat. Cueto just got the ball up a little bit, just a little above the thighs, and that's where Reyes makes his money. A little slap to left field.
A couple of all-star teammates for the National League.
What do you think that conversation's about?
That's a good question. What would you suspect? You've been down there before.
Probably cars.
Cars?
Yeah. I think Joey Votto.
The band?
Like automobiles.
Oh, okay.
Of course, with those two, it might be automobile dealerships they're talking about.
You might be right. Well, Bonifacio has basically done nothing more than just slap the ball to the left side of the infield in each of his first 2 trips. He reached on an error by Rolen in the 1st inning and then slapped it by Rolen. It was gloved by Cozart deep in the hole at short, but it turned into an infield hit. One it goes and fouled out of play.
Well, when you get a guy like Bonifacio who likes to slap it the other way, you would like to keep him crowded with a fastball. Get that ball inside and up. Make it very difficult to hit the ball the other way. Scott Rolen is not going to give him any ground at all. I mean, he is a good 4 or 5 steps in front of third base down that third baseline, trying to take the bunt away from Bonifacio. He's saying, come on, you want to lay it down? I'm right here for you.
Breaking ball just missed that outside corner. 2 balls and a strike. Well, this is generally a count which a lot of managers like to put a runner in motion. We'll see if Ozzie Guillen is thinking along those lines here. 2-1.
Well, it's a fastball count. That's why. Even if you have a swing and miss. That's a pretty good idea by Johnny Cueto. I'm not sure if he's doing all those throwovers on his own or whether it's coming from the bench or maybe at the suggestion of Ryan Hannigan. They know this is a stolen base predicament here for the Reds. It's also a spot where Joey Votto, with a left-handed hitter up there, will play a little bit off the bag at first base. Bonifacio's not really a pull hitter, so he's not going to be off the bag as much as he normally is. And now he's going to straddle the line there. Have to have both feet in the playing field.
3-1 to Bonifacio. And it's ball 4 and trouble to Bruin here in the Marlins 6th inning. First time they've had a runner now reach second. And the first time in the game they put 2 on in an inning.
Might not be a bad time right here for Johnny Cueto to take a lap around the mound. Take a couple of deep breaths, kind of get the negative thoughts out. Don't worry about what you guys have. And get back to what he needs to do, which is concentrate on getting out 2 of the more talented hitters in this league, in Ramirez and then Stanton.
Hanley Ramirez is flied out to left and struck out.
They're going to play Ramirez to pull Brandon Phillips way around towards the second base bag right here. He's going to cover on anything a ground ball back to Johnny Cueto.
Told you Reyes last year won a National League batting title. Ramirez did the same thing in 2009 when he hit .342, knocked in over 100 runs that year. But last year was a disaster. Season cut short by a pair of trips to the disabled list. In fact, the first 2 of his career. He played in just 92 games and hit .243.
And he had some issues with his teammates. He had all sorts of things going on inside the clubhouse that set him back. It was an ugly year overall for Hanley Ramirez. For a player that has a talent to be among the best in the league.
Two on, 1 out. 1-0 to Ramirez. Big swing and a miss.
Boy, they're coming right after him inside. Missed with a fastball inside. Then came right back with a 2-seamer that tied him up. Like a lot of power hitters, Ramirez wants to get those arms extended, and he can just crush a ball if you get it out over the outer third of the plate.
You can't get much better speed than the Marlins have on the bases right now. Reyes and Bonifacio, and a fastball misses in. 2-1 on Hanley Ramirez. When the Marlins acquired Reyes as a free agent from the Mets, they had already named Ozzie Guillen as their manager, and they went to Hanley Ramirez and they said, you're going to play third base. You can play it angry or you can accept it. The choice is yours. And they were very happy the way he has made that rather seamless transition. We'll see how it plays out as the season goes on. Two balls and a strike. Count even.
Well, that's the advantage of having some movement on your fastball. Ramirez is looking fastball right there. And Johnny Cueto throws that 2-seamer down around the knees, and I mean, it just really tails right in on that right-handed hitter. And it looks like it's going to be straight. In the last second, it just moves about 3 or 4 inches inside, and you swing right over the top of it, barely make contact.
You coming in there again here, 2-2?
That's the strength. I mean, he's crowded him with every pitch in this at bat. There's no reason why to change it here. You've got the defense set up on the infield for him to pull the ball. Really what Cueto wants him to do is to roll over on one and hit it down to third base and get out of the inning with a 5-4-3 double play.
Cueto wanting Hannigan to go through the signs one more time. Quickly does so. Came back in there again and missed. Not by much. So now the decision for the very aggressive manager, Ozzie Guillen. Do you start the runners here 3-2? Ramirez, a guy who struck out over 120 times, 3 years in his career.
Well, you do, because you throw to second base because you don't want Scott Rowland to leave his spot at third.
Struck him out, throw to third, and they have the runner to run down.
He stopped.
Rowland, Phillips, inning over. Strike him out, throw him out. Double play ends the Florida 6th inning. Reds still lead 1-0. For the Reds, pretty quiet for both teams in a 1-0 game. Reds have 5 hits. But how about what happened to end the top of this 6th inning? He'll take that all day, every day.
Well, you're not kidding about that. Here it is. Jose Reyes on second, Bonifacio on third. A strike 3 swing and a miss by Hanley Ramirez. And when Brian Hannigan unloads that ball to third base, Scott Rowland is about 6 feet behind the bag. He had to hold his position in the field to make sure that he didn't leave his spot too soon. So he gets behind the bag with it, and for some reason, Reyes just stops.
That one is drilled into left center field up against the wall, and Scotty Rowland has a double to begin the Reds' 6th inning.
You know, from an emotional standpoint, you get in a situation like the Marlins had, a chance to score a run or at least try to get some runs done, and you come up with a strike him out, throw him out double play, and it's got to take a little bit of the wind out of your sails a little bit. You wonder right here, now the Reds are maybe got a little something going on. They can surge a little bit. The Marlins playing back. Good chance right now to move the runner over to third base if you're Jay Bruce and let Ryan Ludwig pick up an RBI.
501 career doubles now for Scott Rowland. Strike one to Jay Bruce. Rowland, one of only 3 third basemen all time with 500 or more doubles, 300 or more home runs. The others, George Brett and Chipper Jones. Brett already in the Hall of Fame. Chipper will be there. Rowland will be there.
Well, considering this at bat with Jay Bruce, you can see what Mark Burley's trying to do to him. He knows that Bruce wants to get that ball to the right side of the field. And he's going to throw him pitches that are going to move away from him. Cutters, sliders, curveballs. It's going to make it as hard as possible for Bruce to pull the ball. First pitch cutter, second pitch slider.
Two and one. Steve Cishek getting loose in the Florida bullpen, a right-hander. He pitched in a loss to the Cardinals last night. 3-1 to Bruce.
He's warming up like this might be Burley's last guy.
Well, you got the right-handers Ludwig, Stubbs, Hannigan coming up. And on a 3-1 pitch, Bruce chases, and this will not advance a runner. Looked like Jay got fooled a little bit there. And he's upset with himself beyond the bag. Well, don't forget tomorrow an off day, and then join the Reds Saturday for opening night. You arrive early, head out to the fan zone, a special red carpet player entrance. If you're one of the first 20,000 fans, you get a 2012 team calendar presented by Kroger. Post-game fireworks show, a live performance from the Rusty Griswolds presented by Tri-Health. Call 513-381-REDS. Visit select Kroger locations or Reds.com. Had a big crowd for opening night here last night, or last year. They do it up right that first night game of the year.
Yeah, they do.
Get a chance to see Matt Latos make his Reds debut here on Saturday night. 0-1 to Ludwig. Full foul. Latos against Ricky Nolasco. Nolasco, one of just 4 Marlins left from their 2006 team. After they cleared everybody out, all the big name players from 2005. Very talented young right-hander Nolasco, and this ball is in the air, right center field. Bonifacio not going to get it, and it's up against the wall. It'll score Rolen. First hit, first RBI is a red for Ryan Ludwig to make it 2-0.
Well, mark it down. That is a spot that Ryan Ludwig simply loves to hit the ball. He gets the ball down and away. He goes with it as well as any right-hander around, and he just loves to slice that right center field gap. That's a good pitch by Mark Burley. Look where it is. On the corner, on the knees. And Ludwig goes out there to get it. Strong enough to drive it in the gap and score a run.
You know, you brought up it looked like that Bruce, a left-handed batter, was going to be the final batter for Burley. You wonder if Ozzie Guillen's not kicking himself down there, but apparently not. He's leaving Burley in to face another right-handed batter after giving up the double to the right-handed batting Ludwig.
Well, he's now moved off his perch where he's been sitting and watching the game the whole time, and now up to the top step of the dugout.
That is the 95th pitch of the game for Mark Burley. Stubbs a bunt single back in the second inning as Ludwig got at second with 1 out. Dusty Baker talking things over with his pitching coach Brian Price. You have Ryan Hannigan next, and then Johnny Cueto's spot. Got off out of play again to remain 1-2. No action right now in the Reds bullpen. Struck him out on a breaking ball. 5th strikeout of the afternoon by Burley, and there are 2 out in the inning. Well, now, if you're Ozzie Guillen, would you contemplate, as you look at the strikeout, walking Hannigan and bringing Johnny Cueto to the plate?
And you force Dusty Baker at that point to make a decision whether he feels more comfortable with Cueto in the game, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Nobody up in the bullpen for the Reds. So at this point, really, Dusty Baker has no choice but to send his starter out. I'm not so sure he'd make a different decision anyway. Not the way Cueto's throwing the ball. You know, it doesn't matter how good your bullpen is. Every time you go to it, there is a certain amount of uncertainty that's going to go along with that new pitcher coming in.
So will be an intentional walk to Hannigan. That is the second walk Burley has issued today. Let's not forget now, Cueto had a base hit his last time up.
This is something Mark Burley has not been used to, has not had the luxury of pitching to a hitter in the lineup in his really major league career, except in interleague games. And he's going to be pitching against Johnny Cueto like he's the number 3 guy in the lineup right here.
Just off the outside corner. That's where Cueto looped one over the head of Omar Infante for a base hit his last time up. He had to sacrifice his first at bat.
Well, Johnny Cueto, when he was a young player down in the Dominican Republic, was an outfielder. It wasn't until he was in his teens and they changed him to be a pitcher.
I cannot wait to see that piece. And there'll be multiple segments of it that'll appear on Reds Live later in the year. You went down and hung out with Johnny Cueto. Down in the Dominican Republic.
I did indeed. Yeah, it was a great experience. Comes from a great family. Met his mother. In fact, his mother had us over for lunch, and she served us the traditional Dominican dish of sancocho. And I think she's up here. I'm going to see if Johnny Cueto can't invite some of the broadcasters over for a nice hot lunch one day, because it is some kind of delicious.
1-2 on Cueto. And it's back to the mound. Burley down on one knee to make sure. The Reds will strand 2, but they score. On a leadoff double by Rowland. He comes home on a double by Ludwig. We move to the 7th on opening day, where the Reds lead 2-0. Fox Sports Ohio being brought to you by AT&T, the nation's largest 4G network. AT&T Rethink Possible by CCHMC. Cincinnati Children's in the top 10 for all selected pediatric specialties in U.S. News and War Report's 2010 Best Children's Hospitals. And by the dependable, long-lasting Chevy Silverado and your Tri-State Chevy dealers.
Well, get ready for Reds action 30 minutes before every Reds game with Reds Live on Fox Sports Ohio. Reds Live is everything a Reds fan needs to know for that night's ball game. And it's your exclusive home for the Reds on baseball. Reds Live presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing.
Not quite sure what's going on with Johnny Cueto here. He went out to the mound. And Tim McClellan, the home plate umpire, came all the way out to the mound. Normally in that scenario, the pitcher is having some kind of a physical maybe problem or feeling something that's just not quite right. Although here, neither Dusty Baker, Paul Assar, the trainer, his assistant Stevie Bauman, or Brian Price have come to the mound. Did it have more to do with the mound itself?
Well, Johnny Cueto, you see him grabbing his right hand like that. I think what happened in that last at bat is that he got that ball off the end of the bat on the last out of the inning, and it probably stung him a little bit. Right. And I think he still has a stinger in his hands, and you know, it just takes a little while for that to go away. And I think maybe Tim McClellan was just giving him a little bit extra time right there in order to let that feeling alleviate and then go on with his warm-up pitches. You probably would never know what that feeling's like, Tom, because every time you played ball, you probably hit it right on the sweet spot.
Oh, no, I know what it's like, unfortunately, as an adult. I remember I was a guinea pig one day. Former Reds hitting coach. Then the manager of the Cubs, Jim Lefebvre.
Okay.
You know, he had all kinds of crazy ideas and contraptions to try and experiment. Very open-minded guy. So he looks at me one day on a team plane. We're going down to play in Atlanta. He says, "What are you doing tomorrow?" It's an off day. I said, "I'm not quite sure." He said, "Why don't you come out to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium and take a little BP?" I said, "I'd love to." He said, "Well, I got a couple things I want to try out." Oh, I found out in a hurry what that was all about. By the end of the night, my left thumb, as a left-handed hitter, my left thumb was the size of a baseball. Wood bats, little giddy up, hadn't hit in about 15 years. It was ugly and painful.
Who was throwing to you?
Jim Lefebvre.
He was about 65, wasn't he?
Like I said, I wasn't any good, and it still hurt.
A little giddy up.
For me, it was a lot of giddy up. Oh, it was awful. All right, Cueto facing Stanton here now with a 2-1 lead in the 7th. Got Stanton way out in front there.
Well, back-to-back hitters in this Marlins lineup, Hanley Ramirez and Giancarlo Stanton. Big, strong hitters, but the Reds are pitching them both very differently. Johnny Cueto trying to keep the ball down and away from Stanton, mostly breaking balls, whereas Ramirez, they're trying to crowd him with him. So even though you have the same body type, same type of swing, you don't pitch hitters the same way.
Struck him out on a pitch up and away from Stanton, and for Johnny Cueto, his 3rd strikeout of the day. He's still flexing that hand, Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day, but the game time temperature was right in the low 60s. I would imagine it's dropped a little bit since then. And now in the shade with that swirling wind. Might be a little tough to get that feeling back. Stubbs racing back, and that's up against the wall off the bat of Sanchez, so he has a double with 1 out. And the tying run will come to the plate here in the 7th.
This guy's a real solid hitter. Gaby Sanchez is. Well, these players that came out of the University of Miami Hurricane program, sets his feet, stays back on the ball. Good, solid hitter. And he got a fastball pretty much right down Broadway that he did not miss.
No activity in the Cincinnati bullpen. Cueto has thrown just 81 pitches in the game. And here's Coghlan, who's bounced to the mound and grounded to second. Breaking ball low. Now a few bodies beginning to stir around in that Cincinnati bullpen. We'll let you know who's getting loose. Two and 0. Jose Arredondo, the right-hander, and Bill Bray, the left-hander, begin to throw.
Not missing by much here in this at bat to Coghlan. For that extra run the Reds put on the board last inning, it looks pretty big right now.
Good fastball there on the outside corner, knee high. 2-1 to Coghlan. One now to Coghlan. I threw a fastball right by him. Two runs, 7 hits for the Reds. No runs, 3 hits for the Marlins. We're in the 7th with 1 on and 1 out. Just blew him away with gas again. 2 strikeouts in the inning, 4 in the game for Cueto, and there are 2 out.
You know, Johnny Cueto just gets it. And I mean, as far as the art of pitching, he knows when he has a little bit extra on that fastball and needs to throw that extra to get it by the hitter. And he did that on the last 2 pitches to Coghlan. You know, he's kind of in cruise control at 90%, and then when you need it, you've got it. If you're out there throwing at 100% every pitch and you reach back for more, there's nothing there.
So now Infante, who hit 7 home runs a season ago, he's a tough out. A lot more power in the on-deck circle with a catcher, Buck. But Infante is a good, solid player, a former All-Star as an Atlanta Brave.
Yeah, he's played on some winning ball clubs. Atlanta, Detroit. Tough out down here in the bottom part of the order.
2-0.
I mean, you wouldn't know it from the first 2 games that Marlins have played, but this has got a chance to be a very good offensive team. Of course, they ran into a very hot pitcher last night in Kyle Loesch. Today, Johnny Cueto, the Reds ace, has held him in check. Ozzie Guillen's got to figure it's just a matter of time until they break out.
2-0 on Infante, and a breaking ball is in there, strike at the belt. Cueto has walked 2. He's walked a batter in each of the last 2 innings. He's fanned 4 and allowed just 3 hits, including the 1-out double to Sanchez here in the 7th. His next pitch will be his 92nd pitch of the game. Drop over the screen and out of play, running the count to 3-2 on Infante. It's been a very quiet sellout crowd, and we'll see if they come to life here. 2 strikes and 2 outs in the 7th inning, and what will more than likely be the final inning of work for Johnny Cueto. We'll do it once more. 3-2 on Infante. Runner at second, 2 away. Fouled back just above our booth. See the pitch count for Cueto. This his highest pitch inning of the game thus far. Number 21 coming up in the 7th. And will be his final pitch in this inning and in the game. A strike away, an out away for maintaining a 2-0 lead. In the air, right center, he's going to get it. How about Cueto? Opening day, his first opening day start. 7 shutout innings.
Move your hats and face the American flag.
We're going to keep it right here for the singing of God Bless America.
The men and women of our armed forces, as well as those who serve to protect in our local police and fire departments. At this time, please help us honor these brave men and women and all our veterans of service, and welcome Hamilton County Sheriff's Court Service Officers James and Jeffrey Whitaker as they lead us in the singing of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home.
Bottom of the 7th inning, Great American Ballpark, opening day 2012. Votto and the Reds a 2-0 lead over the Miami Marlins, and Steve Cishek takes over on the mound, coming off a very good year.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's a big, tall, 6'6" right-hander from Falmouth, Massachusetts. Drafted, came up through the Marlins organization. He's one of those sidewinders, throwing that ball from down around Laredo.
Burley goes 6 innings, allows 7 hits and a couple of runs, walked 2, one intentionally. He hit a batter and struck out 5. Top of the order for the Reds here in the 7th. And a fastball away to Brandon Phillips. Reds have Aroldis Chapman, the flame-throwing Cuban, getting ready in the bullpen. Chapman undisputedly the best Reds starting pitcher in spring training. But after the lengthy injury to Bill Bray, missed so much time up until really the final week. Nick Massett going down. Sean Marshall having to move from a setup role into the closer's role after the season-ending elbow injury to Ryan Madson. So at least to begin the year, Chapman works out of the Reds' pen. 1-2. Nick Massett believes he will be just fine when his time on the disabled list comes up. They made it retroactive to the final week of March. So conceivably he could be back by the end of the very first road trip, which goes from Washington to St. Louis, concluding in Chicago. It's got to be tough to hit this guy from the right side.
Well, there's 2 things working. One is this big this big sidewinding right-hander throwing it from about waist high in there on you. The other thing is that you still have that glare coming off the center field batter's eye. Very tough to pick up the spin of the ball. Brandon just trying to stay alive in the batter's box.
Re-entry to Phillips, leading off the last of the 7th inning. And he punches it to the right side, gobbled up by Sanchez, 1 out. Well, if you're going to be hitting the road this year, take the Reds with you all season by subscribing to MLB.tv and see every Reds out-of-market game live online and on your favorite devices in HD quality. Reds.com. Visit that to order and get more details. MLB.com. Baseball everywhere and anywhere. Cozart, 1 of 3, has scored a run. Reds are so excited about the months and years to come in the career of this young man, Zach Cozart.
Well, one of the things they really like about Zach Cozart is the fact that he's got great bat control. He can move the ball. He gives you options as Dusty Baker. If you have a runner on, he'd be a good hit and run man. He's a little bit quicker than you look when you first see him run. He's actually deceptive in his speed. And he's got some home run pop. I mean, he had a breakout year a couple of years ago in AAA, and the ball does not carry very well down that Louisville ballpark.
course, Kozar came up last year. He went, his first 8 games before he hit a home run. Then he hit a home run in back-to-back games before he got hurt. That is a base hit, fair ball down the right field line, and Kozar didn't hit it hard, but hit it in the right spot, and now he's on his way to third. Here comes the throw there. It's offline. More than likely a double and an error.
I'm not exactly sure what happened down there with Giancarlo Stanton in right field along the line, but he just trying to stay inside the ball, stay alive, keep your hands back as long as you can, and he rifles that ball, kind of not rifles it, but he hits it off the field down the right field line. Now he keeps his eye on the ball down there. If you automatically go into second base, drop your head, you're going to be stuck at second base, but because he's alert, he's going to get an extra bag right there. That's just smart base running by Zach Kozar.
It is a double and an error on Giancarlo Stanton. Votto will be intentionally walked. He led the league in walks last year. Was walked 110 times. Something you brought up early in the game, Chris. In fact, I think the very first at bat. Scott Rowland not only hoping he can stay healthy and play the way he did in 2010, but to give some muscle behind Votto in the batting order.
Yeah, you've got to show the opposing manager that you've got somebody back behind Votto that can be an enforcer. May not always be Scott Rowland, might be Jay Bruce, but somebody behind him has to hit, or else they'll do this to Joey Votto a lot, which is either pitch around him or just give him an intentional walk.
Rowland's been hit by a pitch, popped up to left, doubled to left center, and scored an inning ago. Ball 1. Reds with a golden chance to add to this 2-0 lead. 2 on, 1 out in the 7th. But a rocket one-hopper, and this will be a double play. That's just tough luck for Rowland. Hit it right on the nose. Off we go to the 8th, and we're assuming here comes Aroldis Chapman. Season crowd ever at Great American Ballpark. 42,956. And what a performance they saw from right-hander Johnny Cueto. He goes to front 7, allows 3 hits, no runs, walks 2 and fans 4. And now it's up to the bullpen to try and nail this thing shut with a 2-0 lead. Out goes Cueto, and in comes Aroldis Chapman.
Well, Aroldis Chapman, you see the numbers on him last year, had some walk problems, 41 walks in 54 ball games. Although the opponent batting average very low, you figure that would be because his stuff is just electric. But what he did in spring training was very impressive. He threw strikes nearly every time out. They extended him out, thinking that he might be in the starting rotation. He and Homer Bailey were vying for that number 5 spot. But what was most impressive for me about Aroldis Chapman is that not only did he throw strikes, but he threw low strikes, down around the knees, worked his changeup, which is a split finger pitch he's come up with, and also worked his slider. And I think gone are the days where Aroldis Chapman is going to throw the ball and then check the scoreboard to see how hard he's throwing. He's all about getting hitters out now.
Chapman to face John Buck to lead things off. First pitch fastball is high. Well, he may not turn around to look at it, but everybody in his ballpark will.
Yeah, there was a time when people take pictures of the scoreboard, like out in San Diego when he was hitting 105. When's the last time you've seen that happen?
Only with him. And you'll notice, as Chris mentioned, I mean, that is the one thing, along with all the strikes he threw, the pace at which he threw, as far as getting the ball from the catcher, getting back on the rubber, and going to the plate, Chris, as you point out.
Yeah.
He looks like an entirely different guy.
Yeah, he was in slow motion compared to what he's doing now.
Oh, throwing it in.
Well, you want to know what 98 looks like? Better look quick.
Well, the game he pitched against San Diego very late in spring training, Bud Black, a long-time, very good major league pitcher, now the manager of the Padres, could not stop talking about Chapman. He said the difference in that kid, and of course the Padres don't get to see him very much. The teams only play a pair of series during the regular season. But I think everybody who saw Chapman in spring training thought, if this guy continues to move forward the way he did just in Arizona during late February and early March, if he can continue to make those kinds of strides, it is scary how good he can be. Rolling, picking down at third, 2 outs.
Well, Austin Kearns is a pretty good fastball hitter. He comes in as a pinch hitter right there and sends Rolen into the shortstop hole. But he gets over, gets down low. He always likes to get down low, and he fields the ball, that time on his knees, spins and fires it over to Votto.
So now Jose Reyes turns around about right-handed and takes high, ball 1.
You know, there's two things that you mentioned about the pace of Aroldis Chapman. One is how quickly he gets the ball and is ready to pitch his next pitch. Used to put you to sleep between pitches. The other is his tempo in his windup. They wanted to speed up his timing a little bit. Instead of a real slow delivery and deliberate, they spin him up a little bit, and I think that's one reason why he's a little more consistent.
Well, Chris, you were the guy that pointed it out very early on in spring training. You thought his control would come and come quickly as a starting pitcher, not only, building up arm strength, but the quality time you get with a pitching coach as a starting pitcher.
Well, you've got just about one of the better pitching coaches in all of baseball in Brian Price. And the regular work that Chapman got. You pitch a game, then you get a couple of bullpen sessions. Then you pitch another game on schedule. That made a big difference. That's a splitter right there, boys. Forget about it.
And look at Reyes. I mean, he's looking at Chapman and saying, you got to be kidding. That was good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Mr. Reyes, in a 1-2-3-8.
Making a slider.
is the quietest crowd I've ever heard. Moment. We turn back the clock. Opening day last year, bottom of the ninth inning. The Reds look dead in the water until the game-ending home run off the bat of Ramon Hernandez. That was an unbelievable ending, wasn't it?
It really was.
I mean, you and I were looking at each other after we went to break at the end of that game thinking, how did that really just happen?
It just seemed like it came out of the blue. And I think the Milwaukee Brewers felt the same way. What happened? They were in control of that ball game, really. After the first two batters of the game hit home runs off of Edinson Volquez, it looked like they were never going to look back.
Well, they had a, 4 or 5 run lead most of the game, as I remember. What an amazing finish. Bruce drives one straight away center field. Back to the track. Bonifacio, goodbye. Two of them a year ago, number 1 in the season opener.
That was no fence scraper either. That baby way out of here, right out El Centro. He welcomes the new Marlins pitcher, Edward Mujica. Right there. Thigh high, coming right back over the center of the dish. Oh, that is a textbook swing.
Well, the comment, among many comments made by Joey Votto last night, during his press conference, he said that he and Jay Bruce, who of course are very close friends, they want to be the Bagwell and Biggio of the Reds. Well, wouldn't that be a nice run? Oh. Not only were they two great players, two Hall of Fame players, but you know, more importantly, really, at the end of the day, Chris, they won a pile of games down there in Houston. Never won a World Series. They got to one. But they played a lot of postseason baseball together.
Well, they've had a taste of postseason baseball, and I think they want to get back.
Ryan Ludwig a double, an RBI in 3 at-bats. In his Cincinnati Reds debut, a team he grew up rooting for. Boy, psychologically, there is such a difference between 2-0 and 3-0. And we talk all the time about 4 runs as opposed to going up 5. You know, the 2-3, you take away that bloop and a blast from tying the game. Now they got a couple of guys on. And, of course, 4-5. You hear it all the time. Take the other club out of slam range. 1 out. We'd love to have you celebrate Easter with us at Great American Ballpark. Reds and the Marlins this Sunday. Half price with the Meyer family deal. Now, when one member of the family buys a full-price ticket, they'll get the option to buy 3 additional tickets for half price. How can you beat that? Not only that, the first 8,000 kids 14 and younger get a Kids Easter tin thanks to Meyer. That's this Sunday, Easter Sunday. 381 Reds, or visit Reds.com for tickets. Sean Marshall begins to get loose in the Reds bullpen. Got to look at Juan Porky Lopez down there visiting with Sean Marshall.
Well, he's been one constant down in that bullpen since Dusty Baker has taken over as manager of the Reds. He keeps his eye on him. He's bundled up, waiting for some winter weather, Porky is.
Two and two to Stubbs, who had a bunt in his first time up, has since bounced to third and struck out. And Mujica turns it loose. And it's just low and in.
I think Drew Stubbs may have thought he got caught on that one.
Payoff pitch. We'll do it again. Marlins have 2, 3, and 4 in their batting order as we peek around the corner to the top of the 9th inning. Bonifacio, Ramirez, and Stanton. Boy, it has been a day filled with dominant pitching performances. Mark Burley threw very well today, allowed just 2 runs in 6 innings. Johnny Cueto 7 shutout innings. Roy Halladay beat the Pirates today 1-0. Strasburg and Dempster each allowed a run in 7+ innings. Nationals 2-1 over the Cubs as they continue to look into the eye. A little dirt in there, perhaps in a contact lens of John Buck.
Well, meanwhile, in the dugout, that is Tomas Veras in the center, translating for Aroldis Chapman. Joey Votto trying to tell Aroldis Chapman something. He's got to go through a translator to do it, and it's got to mean a lot to Chapman to have Votto come over him and kind of encourage him to do what he's doing, which is go out there and get hitters out.
Of course, Votto had the Spanish tutor that was talked about, Barry Larkin, during the press conference last night. That was one thing Larkin did very early on, was work with a Spanish tutor so he could flourish in that leadership role, which he assumed during his entire career all the way to the Hall of Fame later this summer. And Votto is following that same lead based on the advice from Larkin.
That's a pretty good idea right there. Now, Cardinals manager Mike Matheny, also fluent in Spanish. One of the reasons why he was able to nail that job down, I think. That was very important in his job interview. He learned that while he was catching, figuring he'd have to communicate a lot with Latin-speaking or with Spanish-speaking pitchers.
It's like you're trying to speak a little Espanol there.
I can order a beer and then ask where the bathroom is.
Baño.
There you go. You've been there.
Here's Ryan Hannigan. You know what happens is, you know, in our line of work where we are around so many different people from so many different countries, and a lot of those countries are Spanish-speaking countries, and the people that we meet in this great game of baseball, such an international game. Mm-hmm. 1-0 the count on Hannigan. Runner goes, and it's in the air right field. Stanton's right there, and Stubbs will hustle back to the bag, second out of the inning. Now tell me if you have found this to be true back when you were coming up in the minor leagues. You know, all the Spanish-speaking guys, you quickly learn a lot of the bad words in Spanish before you start learning some of the regular stuff.
You do, yeah.
I remember we were out in Arizona, and I became very good friends with a lot of folks that spoke Spanish, and before I knew it, as I was trying to learn more and more, and I don't know it, but a lot of the words I do know, I probably shouldn't know.
We just don't teach those to your kids.
I let my wife do that. There are 2 out in the inning, and Chris Heisey is a pinch hitter. Heisey batting for Chapman, who works a perfect 8th inning with a couple of strikeouts. I would imagine there's a pretty good chance we will see Heisey in the lineup on Saturday after the teams have an off day tomorrow. It's not to say that Ludwig is going to, face the softer tossers all year long or the left-handers necessarily all year long, because Heisey did not hit left-handers well last year. Doesn't mean he can't hit them. But we know Heisey likes hitting fastballs, good fastballs.
Yeah.
And Nolasco can throw a good fastball.
Well, one of the things that really separates those two guys is that Heisey is a very much pronounced high ball hitter and Ludwig is a low ball hitter. Just look at the way Chris Heisey lays his bat as he sets up. It's almost parallel to the ground. He's got it ready right there for a high fastball. That's one of the reasons why he's so quick there. But it also is one of the reasons why it's difficult for him to get down to a low pitch, because he's got to change the angle of that bat entirely in order to get that bat head down around the knees.
Two and two to Heisey, who's been so deadly off the Reds bench the last couple of years, and takes that pitch low.
Remember how Pete Rose used to stand up at the plate?
Sure do.
And he'd lay that bat parallel, hold it back, and it would be parallel to the ground. Well, he was a terrific high ball hitter. If you wanted to get him out, if you could, it would always be down around the knees. Anything from the waist up or from the thighs up was high, and he would be able to hit pretty much hit a line drive.
In the air, left center field. Giving chase is Bonifacio, and it's up against the wall. Rounding third and scoring is Stubbs. Pinch hit RBI double Heisey. 4-0 Reds.
Well, Edward Mujica throws a pretty good fastball, and he got this one up to a very good high fastball hitter in Heisey. And as he has done so many times before, coming off the bench, unjamming a fastball to a deep part of the ballpark. Bonifacio nearly makes a great catch, but he just simply runs out of room. So now one more hit and you're out of slam range.
Well, every time I see him play like that, who was that kid a couple of years ago? Was that Dexter Fowler for the Rockies? Remember that play out in left center field where he went crashing into the wall? Lorenzo Cain.
Yeah.
Remember that play?
Mm-hmm.
That might have been the best play I've ever seen. You got to remember that name. If you're going to say it's one of the best, if not the best you've ever seen, you got to get the right guy. That was an unbelievable play.
Pretty good idea.
Thank you. Two and 0.
It's a good attempt right there, but you got to remember that Bonifacio's had one day this year in this ballpark. He's not really exactly sure where and when he's going to run out of room.
Two and 0. And there's ball 3 to Phillips. What a weapon off the bench for the Reds Chris Heisey has been. Of course, he wants to be more than that. Former Reds minor league player of the year. But man, oh man, in those games where he does not start, there are very few guys that have come off the bench with the pop and the sock of Heisey.
So do you weaken your bench to the point where you're reluctant to play him in the starting lineup if you have a guy on Brian Ludwig who starts hitting the ball pretty well? And it'll be something that Dusty Baker will probably be asked about constantly by the writers like he has all spring long. He finally got to the point and said, hey, please stop asking about it. I'll figure out when they play, who they play, and you'll know when you see it in the lineup. Well, he can unjam a fastball high as he can.
Fly ball right center field. Drifting back is Stanton, and in front of the wall makes a play to retire the side. But a profitable eighth. It started with Jay Bruce's first home run on this opening day. Heisey knocks in a run with a double. 4-0. We head for the ninth. Stuff. Good start so far for the Reds. 3 outs to go to try and nail down this opening day win. Leading 4-0. A non-save situation with the Reds scoring twice there in the 8th inning, but they'll still give the ball to the man who begins this year as the Reds closer, left-hander Sean Marshall. And this, of course, his Reds regular season debut after coming over from Chicago during the offseason.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that Dusty Baker could have written it up any better than this. You get him into a ball game, not a blowout game, but you get him in to toe the rubber as the 9th inning guy, not a save as you said, Tom. They get his feet wet as a Red.
Marshall has never had an extended role as a closer. He's been, I don't think there's any debate about it, the best left-handed setup man in the National League over the last 3 years. Now, if you include holds, and really they are save situations, if you come into a game in the 7th inning and your team leads by 3 or less, same thing in the 8th inning, and you go through the inning and don't allow the other team to tie the game, you may not get a save, but it's like qualifying for a save. So some out there will say, well, he's only 7 out of 14. If you include all of the holds, he's had 84 chances to cough up a lead and only done so 7 times. This guy's mighty good.
He is, and what you really like about Marshall is the fact that, well, first of all, he's a big guy. He's 6'6", and he's very deceptive with the way the ball comes out of his hand. He's got a number of different types of breaking balls, a curveball and a slider. There's the curveball right there, and also a changeup. And he's got such a good feel for what he wants to do out there with a pitcher. Very articulate as to how he describes his business of pitching. I think the Reds just made a great deal when they were able to acquire him from the Chicago Cubs. I mean, a great deal.
Of course, neither Dave Chappelle nor Travis Wood opened the year with the Cubs. Their opening day roster today, both sent back to the minor leagues. Chappelle had a very good spring. Travis Wood did not. In fact, Wood had an awful spring. And I think the Cubs people were extremely disappointed that Wood was not a part of their rotation when they broke camp.
Interesting, I heard not too long ago that Theo Epstein was interested in Travis Wood back when he was with the Boston Red Sox. So that affection for Wood continued down into his days as a Cubs GM.
Back to the mound. Bonifacio, and now Ramirez retired on strikes and a bouncer. And the Marlins down to their final out. The largest regular season crowd ever in the 10 years at Great American Ballpark. This beginning the 10th season. Boy, they continue to make unbelievable improvements each and every year. Here's Stanton. Ball one. Cueto, the front seven, his first ever opening day start. 3 hits, no runs. Aroldis Chapman, a 1-2 3/8 with a pair of strikeouts. And now Marshall, an out away from a perfect ninth to tie a ribbon around this one.
Wow. That is a yacker. Man, oh man.
What a Reds debut for Marshall. A 1-2-3 ninth inning with a couple of strikeouts. And the Reds, for the first time since 96-97, win back-to-back opening days as Cueto, Chapman, and Marshall combined on a 3-hit shutout. For nothing, our final score. The Reds win on opening day 2012. Cueto